Good morning, Markie. A lot of details that we actually just got out of the White House within the last hour. This was a statement talking about everything that these two discussed behind closed doors during that over 2 hour meeting. It sounds like there was a heavy focus on Iran, but also economic ties. If you read through the statement, the White House says Xi expressed interest in purchasing more American oil and opposed the militarization of the Strait and Iran threatening to charge tolls in the international waterway. It actually closes out by saying that both countries agreed that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. China is, of course, Iran's largest trading partner, so that's a strong statement there. Of course, now we're seeing on your screen President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping walking into the state banquet. The state banquet comes after a very busy day for the president, a busy morning. Of course, Americans were asleep while this was happening because there's a 12-hour difference between D.C. and Beijing. Despite all of that, now we're at the state banquet and the pomp and circumstance of it all after those, it sounds like somewhat tense bilateral meetings, because these readouts that we're getting from China are different than the readouts that we just got from the White House. In this White House readout, Markie, there was no mention of Taiwan. But what you saw from the Chinese is they attempted to actually shape this narrative with this quick statement about Taiwan. They were warning that any disagreement over Taiwan could ultimately upend diplomatic relations. They said this was the most important issue to Chinese President Xi, which is incredibly noteworthy because President Trump, when he was departing the White House, said that Chinese President Xi Jinping might not want to talk about Taiwan, rather. And despite that, you're seeing China come out with this statement talking about Taiwan, while the U.S. statement makes no mention of that. But as for what they've been up to today, the president had arrived at the Great Hall of the People, and there was quite the arrival ceremony for him there, children cheering. These two shook hands. Then they had this bilateral meeting. Then they went over to the Temple of Heaven. And actually, when he was standing there with reporters, with side by side with Xi, he was asked, did y'all talk about Taiwan? And the president didn't answer that question, only saying that this was a great meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. So I think there's going to be a lot to come in the hours ahead about that. As for what's next, you've got the state banquet, and then tomorrow, Beijing time, but tonight for us here in D.C., there will be tea and a lunch. Then the president will head back over here. We've got about 24 hours or so left in this very high stakes trip that we're learning a lot of new details about that very important bilateral meeting that happened behind closed doors. Markie?
There's still so much to discuss, and tomorrow is the last day before Air Force One goes wheels back up to Washington. And it seems, Libbey, like this first day, there's Apple CEO Tim Cook there, and we did just see the president walking up the stairs to head into the banquet hall. But it seems like, Libbey, this first day, Taiwan really did take up a lot of the oxygen in the room. That was the first red line that China asked the United States not to cross in this summit. Any word from White House sources what the U.S. position on Taiwan is, what we might be willing to concede? I know just back in December, the president signed off on this $11 billion arms package for Taiwan, but has yet to deliver that. Is that something that could be in jeopardy here?
Look, that is something that it sounds like, at least from China, they wanted to talk about, that arms package that the president signed off on. But it's so interesting to see heading into this meeting that China said, we don't want to talk about it. Then they made it the focus out of it. So clearly they're trying to make this a focus, and you're seeing the White House not mention it. So I think there's going to be more to come on that topic. I think the other thing in this statement that really stands out, Markie, is the economic ties. Of course, you think of American farmers and how they're going to be impacted by this sit down with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Are they going to buy more soybeans from America? That's something the president would like to see. Also, you were mentioning these tech CEOs who are walking, or CEOs rather, including some tech CEOs, but you've also got the Boeing CEO. Are we going to sell a Boeing to China? That would be a major announcement as well. I mean, so far you look, there have been no kind of announcements on any specific deals. And heading into this meeting, there was no deliverables that the White House said they were going to provide. They didn't go into this meeting setting any kind of expectation. So walking out of this and announcing any kind of deal would be a win for them. But at this point, we haven't seen that happen, only this statement so far, Markie.
Yeah. Elon Musk is somewhere. Oh, there he is right here on our screen there at that far table. Elon Musk is there as well. And to your point, just Libbey, about trade deals that could come from this could also be a huge visit for farmers and American agriculture as well.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.